Welcome to another exciting episode of Transform Yourself. We are your hosts, Kacy and Tyler. We have lost a collective 130 pounds. We've kept it off for 3 years now through using the 4 M's of fitness, mind shift, meal shift, micro habits, and muscle building. And we are here to help you with sustainable and attainable weight loss through practical tips. And today we are focused on a book talk. We're going to share
coffee talk.
We're going to share 2 of our very favorite books that I use in my coaching.
You probably get a little bit annoyed listening to people probably get annoyed listening to your content. You're like, oh my God, would this lady stop talking about books?
What?
You talk about these 2 books a lot.
I do.
They're excellent books. Well, I've only read the book I'm going to talk about, Atomic Habits.
So we're going to talk about both Chasing Cupcakes by Elizabeth Benton and Atomic Habits by James Clear. And those 2 books drive a lot of, coaching conversations that I have with clients. I feel like these 2 books, the funny part is that both of these books, Atomic Habits for sure is not necessarily about weight loss at all. It's just
not.
It's about habits. And Chasing Cupcakes, you could literally argue that it's also life advice, not just about weight loss. Mm-hmm. It's more so about weight loss. Atomic Habits is not.
I really feel like that's kind of like the key to success is like the advice that you need to handle or you need to understand isn't like quote unquote fat loss advice. It's life advice.
Yeah.
That's what you have to wrap your head around.
So we're going to we chose some excerpts from each of these books that we want to share. And it might hopefully encourage you to pick up one of the 2 books or maybe both.
They're excellent.
And here's the deal. Like I listened to both of these books on audio tape or not audio tape because it's I mean,
it's like I got into my S10 pickup truck with the tiny suicide back seat and then popped the tape in the deck.
Right.
Blew dust off the Creedence tapes.
That was my 18-year-old self. That's true. Yeah. I did have a Chevy S10
with the tape deck. So did we. That's why I brought that up because we had one growing up too.
So I did listen to both of these on audio as I commuted to and from work when I was in education before the pre-me, before I was the calorie deficit queen. But now in fact, you were just sitting on the couch telling me like, Kacy, this Atomic Habits book is coming apart.
It's literally falling apart.
It's falling apart because
the pages are almost about to fall off the spine, whatever
is completely broken.
Yeah.
It has hundreds of sticky notes in it. It has highlights. It has pencil. It has writings.
You couldn't get rid of it. You shouldn't get rid of it at this point.
And the same is true with this other book, Chasing Cupcakes.
Yeah.
I have annotated it and highlighted it and read it and listened to it over and over again because there's so many nuggets of wisdom. So let's get to it. Let's get into these books. I am going to start with Chasing Cupcakes, and I want to first let the listener know that this book by Elizabeth Benton, if you do pick it up or you listen to it on audio, I want you to know that the first 2 chapters of this book are what I would consider a 5 or 6 out of 10. Like they're okay. The first time I picked up this book, it took me a while because I couldn't get past the first chapter. I was like, I don't know why people think this book's so great. When you get to chapter 3 is a 10 out of 10, period. It is amazing. It is my favorite chapter in the entire book.
Could you say maybe that's one of your favorite chapters of any book you've ever read?
I mean, no, well, maybe of the nonfiction. The nonfiction type,
yeah, like
yes.
a self-help type book.
Yes.
That's what I mean. I don't mean like compare this to...
I mean, let's not compare this to Fourth Wing. That's such a great book series. Okay. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay.
So chapter 3, the reason it's my favorite, and this is the part I'm going to start with, is because it starts with 4 words that I think everyone needs to hear. And those 4 words are, you are the problem, period.
I feel like that is such a bold thing to say, but I think I know I need to hear it.
Yeah.
I need to hear it all the time.
Yeah, that's it. You are the problem. And I love that she starts that chapter out that way. I wish she would have started the entire book out that way. She says, let me read a little further. She says, you are the reason you haven't created the change that you crave. And before you get defensive and begin making a case for why I'm wrong and it's not your fault, i.e., it's like the stress or menopause, you're blaming it on metabolism, family dynamics, or absolutely anything else, just take a breath. This is one of the most important starting points for creating change and for getting out of your own way. Mm-hmm. And I love that she starts with that. Let me go a little further. She says, when you realize you've been one of the biggest barriers to your own change, you put yourself in a place of power. You must stop convincing yourself that you're smaller than your circumstances, because you're not. Your circumstances do not have more power than you do. Your past patterns are simply more practice. There is no circumstance or habit that removes your power to choose a different way of being. So it's almost like empowering yourself to realize that you do have the power to change. You do have the power to break past patterns. Just because I have so many clients that come into the one-on-one coaching with fear. And the fear is real because the fear is based on past patterns.
Yeah.
Their fear is based on the idea that, well, they failed every other diet attempt.
I'm probably going to fail this one too.
They're going to fail this one too.
It's just a matter of time until I fail this one.
But that is why mind shift, the first M in Form Fit, is so important, because one of the pillars of mind shift that we have to work through is letting go of your past. You have to let go of your past self and have the power to know that you can make changes and you can get out of your own way, and you have the power to do so through every choice that you make. So this chapter 3, and it goes a lot deeper into it and how to do that. But that chapter is very powerful, and I couldn't agree with her more. Yeah. You are the problem, period. On to your book.
Cool.
Atomic Habits.
All right, Atomic Habit. So this is one thing I love from Atomic Habits. This is from the very first chapter, where it's talking about what progress looks like. Because in your experience, when you're dealing with clients and they want progress, like what kind of progress do they want to see?
Fast progress.
They want
fast.
To see. Yeah, of course.
They want fast progress. Everybody does.
They're like, it's like, why haven't I not lost 30 pounds this month? Like,
right.
Like, why do I not look like I'm carved out of granite or, marble or something like that?
It's funny because I have clients who will lose a half a pound a week, and they're like, oh, I'm so frustrated with this.
It's like, that's
process.
amazing
I'm
progress.
like, wow, look at that. A half a pound a week. Amazing. That is fantastic. That's 2 pounds a month. That's 24 pounds over a course of a year that you will likely keep off. Imagine yourself 24 pounds lighter. How great is that?
Yeah.
I think 0.5 pounds a week is amazing. And I applaud that. But go on. I'm sorry. I took over.
No, it's fine. Well, and that's how it is. Everyone wants it to be instantly, but what is real progress? And the illusion they make to in this book is it's like setting an ice cube on a table in just a room temperature room, and it's like it starts off at freezing, whatever it's at, 32 degrees, and it's slowly going up, and it's slowly melting, and it's slowly going up, and then it's going to start to evaporate eventually. And it's like that's kind of an analogy for like you can't rush this process. It's going to take a long time. You have to be comfortable with that process, and just get on board with it. Just be comfortable with the fact that you have to readjust, I guess, your expectation for how quickly things are going to move.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think in that chapter, he even talks about the idea that the ice cube starts in a room that's like at 10 degrees, right? And then the temperature is changing to 11 to 12 to 13, and you don't see any change in the ice cube. Yeah. It still stays frozen. There's no change effectively. Yeah. However, change is still being made. Progress is being made. The temperature is going up.
You're saying this way better than I am, and I'm the one holding the book.
I have read that chapter
100 times, I'm
yes,
sure. You've read
so
it.
many times.
I've read it once.
Yes,
Yeah.
progress is happening, but no effective change is happening until you get to the breaking point of which change starts. You start to see the change happen. It's the same thing. I'm sure you've all seen it happen at either a Weight Watchers meeting or on a TikTok or Instagram reel where somebody takes a roll of toilet paper and they tear off a single sheet of toilet paper, right? You don't see any effective change in that roll, but then you continue to tear off a single sheet and you continue to tear off a single sheet. And over time, you will start to notice that, okay, it's starting to look different.
Yep.
But you may not notice it at first. And that is true for weight loss. And we just have to be consistent.
Yep. It's brick by brick. There's no other way. I mean, any other way is not going to work out long term for you.
Correct.
You're going to crash. You're going to be on the binge restrict cycle. You'll be on that ride the rest of your life.
The amount of clients that I have come to me that are ex-Optivia users is incredible. And Optivia look, it's not a great.
It's Nutrisystem essentially, right?
Yeah,
it's the same idea.
It's going to put you on very restrictive calories. It basically puts their clients on 1,000 or less calories per day eating their product. And it just is never sustainable for anyone.
1,000 calories.
I mean, you know what? You're going to lose some
nothing.
weight and people are very successful on it.
Well,
but you know what?
of
They're
course.
never successful long term.
Because that's a miserable, because you're literally torturing yourself to do that. That's not
sounds
not okay.
awful to me. It sounds
Yeah,
terrible.
unless you're cutting weight for a wrestling competition. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's not okay.
I agree. All right. So back to chasing cupcakes. This is also from chapter 3, but it kind of goes a little deeper. And she's talking about you being the problem. So many times clients will say to me, Kacy, it's that 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock hour. I can't, I have to have something sweet and sugary during that time. Or Kacy, it's 8 o'clock at night. I just binge food at that time of day. I just have a binging problem. Or Kacy, it's the weekends. Every weekend, I have a problem with drinking too much alcohol on the weekends. Or Kacy, I have a snacking problem. Well, guess what? Elizabeth Benton says, and I love that she says this, she says, it's not your problem, it's your practice, period. And let me say that again. It's not your problem, it's your practice. So if you say, I have a snacking after 8 o'clock problem. Okay. Describe to me what that snacking after 8 o'clock looks like. What does it look like? Oh, it looks a lot like your practice. It looks like you practice snacking after 8 o'clock. So guess what? Just like a kid, just like anybody else, if you practice doing something enough, you are going to
become a person that does that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your brain is wired to want more of the thing that you practice. So if you're practicing your problem, if you're practicing drinking copious amount of alcohol on the weekends, you are going to continue your brain is wired to continue to do such. So your practice is what created the problem in the first place. But guess what? If your practice created the problem, that means that your practice can also create the solution. So you have to decide, are you going to practice the problem or are you going to practice the solution? And I think that's so powerful because whatever your problem looks like, I need you to think, okay, I'm practicing that problem. I'm practicing every night at...
So could you maybe give an example of, so you gave the ice cream as practicing, I guess, a bad habit.
Yeah. I mean, if you
What's
have
a good
ice
habit?
cream...
Like what would you correct that with?
So that's exactly... So at night, if you have a practice of having ice cream at 8:30 every night, then you would need to practice not having ice cream. Now, you would have to either replace that with maybe fruit. So you would practice having fruit every night at 8 o'clock instead. But you're going to have to practice that more than once for your brain to want to
turn it into a habit. Turn something you want to keep
turn
doing.
it into something. Exactly. So you have the power to choose that though. what do you want more? Do you want your goal, or do you want the ice cream right now? What do you want most?
Yeah.
Instead of what do you want now?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's pick your hard.
Right.
Do you want your hard now, or you want your hard later? Back to Atomic Habits. All right. So this is one I know that we have talked about. I've heard you talk about in your Instagram, and we've talked about before, but here in, I don't know, this is pretty early in the book. So every action is a vote for the type of person that you wish to become. Not a single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. So it's kind of funny, like all these things are kind of really
aligning with
they
each
really
other.
do. I love that as an analogy, that if I'm a person that for a month, if I set a goal and I'm going to go for a walk 80% of the time. Let me think how I want to say this. I don't like that.
So what he's basically saying is he's saying to practice the solution,
Yeah.
because you have to vote for
and
the solution over and over. You have to cast that vote.
Yeah. And I just like that. I like the imagery of that, because I think of like tallies on a board, and like all these tallies are, the
They're going to compound.
the good decisions I made. And then I can immediately see it. Like, oh, these are the days I didn't do what I wanted to do. And well, those are like votes for the other directions. I don't know. You can see the progress with it a little bit easier. You can see like how you're moving forward with it. I like that. I don't know. I just like that imagery of it.
And clearly, if you want to win at weight loss, you need to vote for the person you want to become instead of casting votes for the person that you were before. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is funny how James Clear and Elizabeth Benton and all the other weight loss books,
I'm sure if we
guarantee you there's
if we went and
tons
picked
more.
a Tony Robbins book up, I bet you there's 3 lines we could find in that too.
Yes, or David Goggins probably says the same thing. They all do. They're all
Yes.
shouting the same message with different words. Here's another one from Elizabeth Benton's book. And this is from chapter 4. She says that transformation is now. And transformation is now means that you can be different right now. You need to be, because that's when change happens. The next moment is your chance. The next choice is your opportunity for transformation. Transformation is a decision, not a destination. So what she's saying is that so many clients, again, they think, okay, I'm going to do this process and I can't wait to see my transformation. The word transformation to them is something that occurs to them in the future. It is not something that is happening in the moment. We all think of, okay, I'm going to diet hard, I'm going to exercise hard, and I'm going to one day see my transformation. Transformation is not one day. Transformation is not tomorrow. It's not next month. It's not next year. Transformation is now. And I believe that 100%, because transformation happens in the very next choice you make. So every single choice you make, and again, this just echoes James Clear, we're piggybacking off of each other, that the choice you make is casting a vote for the person you want to become. So the very next choice you make today, is that going to align with your goal?
Yeah.
And if it does, guess what? You're transforming now, because you're now transforming into the person you want to become.
It's just the tiny baby steps.
You're right.
Yeah, see, like
The identity, it's becoming a part of your identity.
Yeah.
And back to James Clear.
And that is brick by brick, like grain of sand by grain of sand, really.
Yes.
Like it is, every atom has to change. And that takes time. And back to Atomic Habits, another thing that I love is a concept he has called habit stacking. And essentially what that is you take a habit you don't really like and you pair it with a habit that you really like to make it a little bit more digestible, something easier to remember, and kind of help hold yourself accountable.
Give us some examples.
So I know, like for you, whenever you were in your weight loss stage, like you'd have to drink 40 ounces of water every day before you drink your coffee.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's a lot of water early.
It was a lot of water early.
But it's great because I love that concept because I use that all the time in other things. For instance, if I have to fold laundry, it means I'm putting on a podcast, and like it's like a little no cost reward to myself to get me to
Do the laundry.
To do the laundry. you know, maybe for something with meal prep.
You could listen to a podcast.
You could do that. You could listen to you was like, hey, I'm going to do
one of these books on audiobook.
Exactly. Like this month, I'm going to listen to this audiobook while I'm meal prepping. And that's going to be like your little thing to kind of get you through that if you don't like it.
Yeah. And it does. Yeah. It could be anything. It could be Crime Junkies if you want to listen to that.
But it could be it could be anything. I wouldn't do food, clearly.
Okay, so I'm going to finish with a little bit from Chasing Cupcakes. This is chapter 8, where she's talking about external goals and internal targets. And what she's saying is that so many times we are chasing an external goal. And by the way, external goal is fat loss, losing weight, gaining muscle. That is an external goal. But what we're not focused on is the internal target. In other words, we're trying to get rid of the smoke, but not put out the fire. Mm-hmm. And you can over and over and over again try to get rid of the smoke. But if you don't address the fire, then you're not really getting rid of the problem. So you have to find your internal target. So what do we mean by your internal target? Might be something like low self-esteem. It might be stress. You have to address your anxiety, your fear, your stress, your low self-esteem. You have to address those feelings in order to address your goals. When I work with clients, I talk a lot about choosing happiness as the path to your goal instead of your goal as the path to happiness, because you can't hate yourself then. You have to love yourself first before you can get to your goal. This is where it's important to do the work on why. Why is it you want to lose the weight? What is that going to bring? What feelings is that going to bring to you? That kind of work is going to help you identify what your internal target is. And if you can't initially pinpoint your internal target, that's totally okay. Ask yourself, instead of how you want to feel, ask yourself, how do I not want to feel? Okay? Maybe it's easier to answer that question. Maybe it's easier to say to yourself, I'm sick of feeling tired. Mm-hmm. I'm sick of feeling bloated. I'm sick of feeling like I don't want to be in a social situation. I'm sick of feeling isolated. Mm-hmm. I'm sick of feeling lonely. So maybe ask yourself what you don't want to feel if you can't really pinpoint what you do want to feel. And that, again, is going back to the mind shift section of the 4 M's of Form Fit. So the funny thing is when I was in my own fat loss journey, I did the work differently than I had ever done it before. And the work that I did that was so different was not just addressing diet and exercise. Every time before I had addressed diet and exercise, but I had not addressed mind shift, nor had I addressed micro habits and how to allow those habits to be sustainable. And I think that both of these books do a great job of exactly that. The other 2 M's that no one addresses, the mind shift and the micro habits. You have to address those 2 M's as well. They are equally, if not more important. I would say the mind shift is the most important. It is why it is the first M in Form Fit. And you have to address those if you want your weight loss to be sustainable, if you want it to be a forever thing. And that's where Form Fit comes in, because we address all the M's.
You address the things that people, they don't address. And it's also funny because that's really the root underlying issue for 99.99999% of
Here's the
women.
funny thing. That's the toughest part.
It absolutely is.
You think the toughest part might, for one of you out there, you might be listening thinking, the toughest part is exercising. I do not get me in a gym. I hate exercise. That is not the toughest part.
Well, it's also funny.
The toughest part is, oh gosh, I don't want to eat salads. You don't have to eat salads, first of all. But second, it's not changing your diet and exercising that's tough. It's changing how you think. That is the tough work. And changing patterns in our own brain. Yeah, that's really tough work because it takes a lot of practice. And it takes work to do. But the good news is I know the steps to take in order to get that work done.
We figured it out.
Right. The good news
So that's good.
is that, I've done the work of digging into books like Chasing Cupcakes and digging into books and annotating them and highlighting them until they're broken, those books, into all of the work behind creating habits that are sustainable and creating thoughts that align with your goals that will give you the actions and results that you want so badly. Those 2 books, I strongly suggest to anyone out there listening that you get them on audiobook or grab them on Amazon and check them out. They're fantastic resources to help guide you on your journey. Or join one of my challenges, or join my one-on-one coaching, and I will help walk you through parts of this book. I've many of my clients, it's funny how many of my clients I recommend these books to and they buy them. And these books are life-changing for them as well. And I love that because I want, it is deep within me that I want the ladies that join me to succeed. I want them to have that feeling. I want them to have the freedom in their brain to know that they not only can lose the weight, but then they can keep it off forever. Because I feel like my now self, and I feel like this is true for you too. I feel like the 2 of us at this point know that we are never going to gain the weight back. I'm never going to gain that weight back.
Yeah. No,
do you feel that way about yourself?
No, no, I really do feel that way. Like broadly, like that I won't.
It's
like,
not going to happen.
Like I'm sure, like there'll be up and downs like anything else.
Yes.
But to go back to who I was beforehand, there is no chance. I know that.
Yeah, and isn't it?
Like it's all I can't even begin to
think about yourself.
To think
that way.
about myself that way because it's like that's a different human.
It is a different
of course,
human.
I've had a different experience than some. I almost died. So hey, that has something to do with it too. But still, like I
you lost the weight before you almost died.
No, that's true.
I mean, I'm just pointing that out.
That is
true. So you became a different person before then, which
that is
I'm
true.
grateful for.
Yeah.
But
it's the only reason I survived. I mean, quite frankly,
it did. It certainly helped. But I think the freedom that lives within us now to know that we're not, I don't have the fear. Like before I would have the fear every time I dieted that I would just gain it back. And it's almost like I knew I was going to gain it back. And so I did because my brain told me I was going to gain it back. Well, my brain no longer tells me I'm going to gain my weight back. My brain now tells me, hey, look at this. You're going to be fit forever.
Yeah.
You're going to, I mean, yes, I might gain or lose
5 or 10
pounds, but I'm never going back to the before me.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
That's because that person's gone. All those decisions that person would make, you don't make those decisions anymore.
That's correct.
So like you can't, almost in a way. I don't say can't.
Yeah, and it's true what James Clear says. It's true what Elizabeth Benton says. You become a new person because every decision I made along the way transformed me into a new identity.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing, beautiful thing. And that is what I want. That freedom is what I want for any of you out there listening. So feel free to hit me up at thecaloriedeficitqueen.com. Thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of Transform Yourself.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow Kacy on Instagram for all things weight loss and fitness.
Yeah, that.
This is Kacy, the Calorie Deficit Queen. I was waiting for you to say it. And her dim-witted husband, Tyler. Signing off. No, you have to say adios.
Adios.
There you go.